Today. Okay, so I teased this deck last night or last stream. I have been messing around with Winota in Boros. Now, this shell may look kind of familiar to you, as over the last couple months we've been playing this like Boros Delirium shell. So let me. Now, I do think that this archetype in general has been a sleeper. Like with this build, we have like some like crazy 13-2 record where we're playing just a much lower to the, or maybe not much lower to the ground, but we're playing like a more red based version of Boros compared to the white based version. And Cori-Steel Cutter, Fear of Missing Out, Dragon Rage's Channeler, Detective's Phoenix. They give you like these really fast, aggressive elements. You get to be more in on Arena of Glory because your deck is a lot more red based. Faithless Looting, discarding Phlage is really, really powerful. And then in this build, we were also like recommissioning. And then we had updated this build to play Cosmic Grand Zenith when this card came out. And this card was also really good in the archetype and was something I was impressed by. And it would have made the deck if it made any other type of tokens besides humans, I think. But I've been kind of worried about this archetype a little bit, where I do like the blink decks are very popular, and it's tough to play. I think that kind of strategy in the blink metagame, where you are just you sort of like you have to kill them really fast, otherwise you're going to be pretty cooked. Is my impression of the matchup, and so I've been interested in just trying to go a little bit bigger with Winota. And the real key to this is that Winota works in this shell in a way that it doesn't work in regular Boros Synergy, right? The big key difference between just slamming Winota in Boros Synergy is that when your deck that's playing Faithless Looting and Fomo and Seasoned Pyromancer, you just don't really mind drawing Angrath Marauders. You are going to be really easily able to loot the copy away and not have this dead draw. Because Winota is a really crazy, insane card. It says, if you're not familiar, whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, so this is Ragavan, Steel Cutter tokens, Fear of Missing Out, Elemental tokens, technically Phlage. Whenever a non-human you control attacks, you look at the top 6 cards of your library and you put a human among them into play, tapped and attacking. So the idea is that you're going to get a lot of triggers, potentially even an extra combat step too with your Fear of Missing Out, to just put an Angrath Marauders into play, tapped and attacking, which doubles all of your damage or quadruples your damage if you hit 2 of them. This just ends the game immediately. It gives you this really fast, powerful curve. It's also like, giving Winota haste is a nice way to power it up sometimes. This is a really crazy effect. The problem with Winota, in my opinion, has been that you can't really it's very difficult to build it where you have good, powerful 7 drops to hit. There's two really crazy cards to hit. There's Angrath Marauders, and then there's Agent of Treachery, which steals a permanent. Again, the problem is, like Modern is a format that really punishes you for having just complete dead draws in your deck. So while the Pioneer version with Winota, like removal was worse, you could just be like all in on this. It's okay if you have some kind of dead draws. In Modern, you get really punished for having the dead draws. But in this build with all the looting, you just don't mind. It's really cool. I was also trying to mess around with a version that had Emperor of Bones and Orcish Bowmasters, so that you could Emperor of Bones or Angrath Marauders, so that since you're actively looting them away anyways, having access to that was kind of cool. I ended up deciding that like this normal Boros build just gets to have like really smooth mana and 4 Arena of Glories. So I'm thinking that this is the better version. I haven't completely finished the Mardu build. Unlikely that we're going to just try to pivot midstream to that one, but we might see that later on the stream if the testing goes well, just as a heads up for future iterations. Thank you for the 43 months. Let me know if you remember your question, Gooney. And let's get in there. Oh, sorry. I meant to update the mock. Yeah, I had Channeler previously, and I've ended up liking Ragavan more since last night's testing. Just it's another non-human creature, which is a big deal, and it gives you access to some turn 3 wins on the nut draw, where you can just get a treasure token and play like the Spyro or Fomo, and then the turn 3 Winota gives you access to the. Okay, it looks like. Sorry, but yeah, let me just make sure the Mox field's up to date, and we'll get there. But yeah, this was the list I had posted yesterday. I think I also ended up adding the 3rd Clarion Conqueror to the board because I wanted just an extra card against Belcher. I ordered a Spider-Man mask that should come in today, and I think I'm gonna wait for it to come in to do my recording, but I have finished the PowerPoint. It's gonna be longer than I expected. All right, let's keep the Ragavan. Opponent says hi again. Was this our round 1 opponent that we are circling back to here? Looks like maybe. So they've got a turn 1 Tamio, which blocks my turn 1 Ragavan pretty well. Cori-Steel Cutter is kind of interesting. I think getting the Steel Cutter resolved is going to be a big priority for me, so let's just play that this turn. Yeah, there's more hidden gems in the Spider-Man set than I thought there would be. It seems like we're gonna have it looks to me it looks like a really good amount of cards to like dive into before my wedding / honeymoon, and then we get to come back for the modern BNR and Avatar. Lightning does double your Lotus 6 bolts. So the thing with this is worded a little bit weirdly. It says until your next turn. Until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to a player, it deals double. I interpreted this to mean, all right. So I think I'm gonna FOMO, and then I think if I don't draw, I'm gonna discard the lightning. If I don't draw a land, I'm gonna cast the looting, so we can try to set up for the lightning. And if I do draw a land, then we cast the Ragavan. So not the lightning, the Winota, obviously. Molten Alpaca with the 2 months. Thank you. Welcome back. So, the schedule's gonna, I think, looking pretty good for the rest of this year. At least, personally. Okay, so we lose our Winota. Okay, so the lightning wording. So yeah, I thought that this meant that if you hit your opponent, even if your lightning dies, even if you don't hit them again, your lava spikes on the next turn could deal double damage. That's not how this works. You need instead to hit it lasts until the end of your turn, it lasts until you untap. Which is just a little bit confusing wording, at least it was for me. And I thought that you'd be able to like Arena of Glory it and burn and have it be a good burn card, but that ends up not being how the card works. Okay, very bold attack here. I guess we can expect them to play a second frog. Gonna try any Web Slinger, Relic of Legend combos. I guess I haven't thought about Relic of Legends with Web Slinging. It's kind of interesting. Admittedly, did not make the video so far. Could end up making it. All right, I think I'm interested in looting here. I know we could just Phlage, but I'm interested in double spelling. Interested in triggering prowess. Yeah, so we can cast Phlage this turn and escape it next turn. If I deal 3 damage to this frog, they'll discard 2 cards and it'll have 3 damage on it. Then they'll have 2 left, and then we can attack with all of our creatures with impunity. Probably can untap the Ragavan. Yeah, Fomo Lightning is pretty cool. I agree. They discard a Kaito. Good use for that card. Then they discard a Force of Negation. So this has 3 damage on it, and I guess they can discard. So they can discard 2 more cards. They survive a 2 toughness creature, of course. So I guess we're not untapping the Ragavan. We are untapping this monk. And then if they want to discard their whole hand to kill my Ragavan, that's okay. So there's 2 3-mana Web Slingers that can tap for W. Tap them to Relic and use the mana to Web Sling over and over for Infinite Storm. Yeah, I see. I do see the combo. I think it's interesting. I don't know that I think it's necessarily good. It's weird, but it's at the very least interesting. They're gonna block the monkey, I presume. Oh, they blocked the Fomo. Okay, so we get to connect with the Ragavan. We see a Quantum Riddler. Cool to see that making the rounds in Frog. Attack for 2 more. Gonna put our opponent down to 8. There's no way they block this. And they have no cards in their hand, but they're gonna be able to draw a good amount of cards. We have a Phlage in the graveyard. We have some good top decks. Gonna be an interesting game. Yeah, it would be nice if like this like Relic of Legends combo didn't require a third piece, but it's interesting. I'll go ahead and let's go ahead and add Relic of Legends to the PowerPoint. I do know that there's another one of these cards. I don't know. I don't know if I need to put it in the video, but I'll just at least put this here as a. Okay, so they flip the Tamio after 2 frog draws. They now have 3 cards in their hand. The Tamio Plus is going to definitely significantly reduce the amount of damage I can deal this turn. It seems like they've drawn a creature. Oh no, Strategic Betrayal. So I'm going to sacrifice my token here. And my Phlage is exiled. Oh, that's definitely the worst part of that. Strategic Betrayal there. Pretty dang brutal to run into. I don't think there's any other way to describe that. Let me go ahead and attack with both, see if they also drew a Fatal Push. We hit a Quantum Brittler last turn. Wouldn't it be a bad turn to hit another one? Nope. This time we draw just a Gloomlake Verge. Let me, I guess, move this over here. But it seems like this is not going to be like a beatable top deck or... Are there any Spider-Man cards that work well with Bauble? I've enjoyed Bauble selections for the last few ones. Yeah, there is a few. Nothing too crazy. I think maybe the only one actually is that with Peter Parker's camera, like you can copy a Bauble trigger, which just like a lot of times this card is going to be a cheap artifact that you're just cashing in to like draw a card, although occasionally you'll get something a bit more effective. They Kaito me. Wait, what did they do with the Kaito? I drew another land? Ah, okay, let's go to game 2. Brutal game. We were so ahead, and then that Strategic Betrayal was indeed strategic. All right, not a lot on the sideboard for Dimir Frog. I think we're mostly just trying to get in there. Not a big fan of Clarion Conqueror. Thanks, Lion King. Glad you're liking the brews. And thank you, France, for Wimby, Arcane, and Expedition 33. Yeah, but the Spider-Man, there's a lot more from this set than I expected there to be. Even like when I just was doing like a mental audit, cards kept sliding in and in and in. I don't think there's anything super duper crazy. Like all of these like top cards are. None of them are too interesting, but I think that there's enough here that we have some cool brews, some nice additions to existing decks. All right, let's keep this on the play. I really like at least 1 or 2 Conqueror versus Frog. That's good feedback. I agree that its effect is really nice, but it feels so fragile. But it is true that Frog is like really limited on their removal spells a lot of the time. Although maybe that's changing with them main decking Strategic Betrayal. Brewster, the 17 months, welcome back. That Spider-Man card's about to shake up the whole format, hell yeah. Nice Spice Lord. Graveyard of Marauders. Yeah, I agree that Betrayal is looking good. It was incredibly good that game. Is this a Fleam stream? I did see Fleam for the first time. Fleam, unfortunately, does not look to be close to a modern playable card. Regarding Urza Saga, I'm not sure when you'll have 5 mana available to double up Urza Saga triggers. Well, the Saga trigger that you're doubling up is the trigger that searches a permanent, so that's not 5 extra mana. But but also like in your Mox Opal decks, your Mox Opal, Mox Amber decks, you do have leftover mana a lot of the time. But I could definitely see myself spending 2 mana to double like a Urza Saga search trigger. Enigma Jewel Parker's camera. Maybe the thing is, it's like a Jewel is nice because it has some extra synergies like Tamio clues and Saga tokens. But I'm not that interested in going super duper in on it, I guess. So they know I have this Bolt. Am I interested in trying to make them discard their entire hand to save the Frog? I guess so. I don't believe the camera is not legendary. Peter canonically has purchased multiple cameras. All right, no blocks. Discard Bolt Arid Mesa, I think. Could keep the Arid Mesa and just discard 2 spells and have Fomo be a nuts top deck. I think that's okay because we have the looting in the yard if we get flooded. Oh, alright. We found Winota. Tap out, tap out, tap out. Stop, stop, I'm doing something. If they attack without flying the frog, I'll probably block with the Spyro. Is a Spider-Man PowerPoint give you on YouTube soonish? I'm planning on recording after today's stream and hopefully uploading tonight. I did order a Spider-Man mask to record in, and I think if it's not here, I might push production back a day, which is maybe not the best reason, but it's not tax deductible if I don't record in it. So I'm down to 15. They're at 12. They have 5 cards in their hand. They're playing a Tamiyo. Playing a Preordain, and they're flipping the Tamiyo. No subtlety. Please, no subtlety. I'm trying to make some content. I'm trying to create some content. Kind of funny that the elemental tokens, I guess we play this because we could hit a Seasoned Pyromancer. Here comes the content. Daddy made you your favorite. Open wide. Alright, attacking them, I think. We do get the extra Winota trigger off the Fomo. Brick. Alright. Put that one at the Tamiyo. There we go. And then this one here. All right. Let's go. So so this would have been 6 plus 4, so, and then another 2 off the Fomo. So that was lethal, even though we sent the Winota at the Tamiyo. Cool. Fomo's gonna be attacking reserve. Oh yeah, the next Fomo attack doesn't. That's right. I don't get it has 0 power. That's funny. Okay, I might bring in a Conqueror or 2 on the draw just with the feedback, but I'm not sure what we're cutting. Like the bolts aren't great. They are playing Tamiyo. A lot of times your bolts, like bolts plus combat damage, can like fight through frog. Let's just try 1. I'm a little bit hesitant, but good feedback, Big Al. I don't love this hand. This is not a matchup where it's very easy to mulligan. This hand is good if we draw. This hand is really good if we draw Untapped Mountain or Steel Cutter, or like good enough to keep. I think I'm gonna mulligan. I just think it's just a bit too anemic on the draw. Ragavan might be a bit bad on the draw. It might be, but we haven't seen Bowmaster yet at the very least. They did keep a card on top. They have turn 2 frog 3 games in a row. Was the first thing to keep? Yeah, if Parlor was a Sacred Foundry, we would have kept, I think, pretty easy. They do have turn 1 frog or turn 2 frog again. Let's play Steel Cutter. See if they have the force. No force, of course. Don't think I'm going to get Harbingered here. They did play a basic Swamp, though. Oh, sorry, I thought I updated the Mox field. I think I sometimes I do this thing where I update it and I just don't click save. But yeah, this was last night's list. Okay, so they sees my Winota. They attack with the frog. I'm gonna not block. We could equip the Steel Cutter to Ragavan, maybe, so we have an attack with it. Well, very, very bad if they have a Fatal Push. Um, yeah, I think obviously we could just cast the Phlage on the Tamio, but I think I'm interested in filling up the graveyard for the Phlage, and I'm interested in making sure my Faithless Looting gets some value, which we get to do this way. Now we don't have Delirium, and I need this land for the Phlage, so I think we are just gonna equip the Steel Cutter to the Ragavan here, and if they have a Fatal Push, this is maybe means this is a Fatal Push they aren't going to be able to use on the Phlage. Okay, connection. No way, we hit Fatal Push! And we get to make a Steel Cutter token. Nuts. Thank you, Ragavan. Thank you, Ragavan. My hero. Careful, he's a hero. I think that might be all of our luck for this week. Any consideration to leaving the cutter on the monkey there? That was probably a bit better, yeah. So Riddler, but they have 3 cards in their hand. You know, Riddler does not hit the same if you ain't flickering it. They have just 1 mana up and no Revolt for the Fatal Push, so it seems to me like this is a good moment to escape a Phlage. All right. Well, lucky me. Yeah, so you can build a more energy focused build with Guide and Pride. Johnny's also really good in Winota too. I was thinking about playing Johnny over Ragavan, but I do feel like the presence of turn 3 kills matters a lot. I think on the draw we're gonna keep this. Obviously, if we just draw a mountain, this is really strong hand, and I think on the draw on a mulligan we want to keep another Island Tamio deck. Cool. I'm gonna what was I saying? Okay, so it's an affinity variant. Is it worth to target Tamio only with the attacking Phlage trigger so you don't give them Revolt pre-attack? Maybe. I was a little bit worried about Consign, although I guess they would have consigned their Riddler trigger. I don't know why I thought they'd have Consign, honestly. But that was the thought that was going through my head. Maybe it was too greedy to not crack the bauble. Ether Spellbomb. They cracked their clue. Gonna be a tough one here, of course, just on the stumble on the draw. It is also possible that this is just a game where we are able to go over the top with a Winota, although the Aether Spellbomb, I guess, that makes that less likely. We'll see what happens. So we can attack with the Ragavan into the clue token, so they don't even attack because they know I can make the attack with the Ragavan. Oh my gosh, sorry, I meant to cast the Fomo. I guess it's not gonna be that big a difference. I do think casting Fomo is usually better here. I guess it's not really that different casting it this or next turn. A lot of sideboard cards. Okay, so bringing in these 6. As far as cuts go, I do think Ragavan is usually pretty dang bad against Affinity, and there's some tension with the Clarion Conquerors. So even though we're on the play, I think it's okay to cut them. I do think we need to keep in the bolts. I think we can easily trim the first looting. We could trim a Phlage, although I think with our density of discard, like keeping the 3 Phlages in is usually something I'm pretty interested in doing. I think maybe we can go down one of the Marauders. Let's try that. Have I seen Spot, the white-black 7-drop who switches life totals as a human for Winota? I think you're confusing Spot with Mr. Negative, which is understandable because they're both like black and white. I'm pretty sure Mr. Negative is the one that switches life totals. I don't think switching life totals seems... It's at the very least a weird effect that's hard to evaluate, but to me it doesn't exactly seem like it. Whatever it is. Our Baubles Battle Conquerors. There's definitely some tension, yeah, but it's usually not that big a deal. Endless with the Twitch Prime. Thank you. Welcome back. Is it okay to have tension in this? How much tension is acceptable? It is okay to have tension. Like, I mean, the Conqueror Bauble is like very, very minor. It just kind of depends too. Like sometimes like you'll have a really bad matchup, and the one sideboard card you can play for the matchup also affects you. But if it just totally shuts down your opponent's deck, and that matchup is the matchup you need answers for, it's okay to have something that hurts you a little bit if it hurts your opponent a lot more. There isn't like a formula for how much tension is okay, but it's okay if you have a little tension sometimes. I think the draw on Mr. Negative is powerful. What if switching draws you 8 cards? Well, 8 cards are definitely nice to have. Let's say that the Mr. Negative effect is very weird. If we're talking about hits for Winota, Angrath's Marauder seems to just kill them almost every single time by itself. And I am interested in doing that instead of it's never Rebuke, I'm assuming. Yeah, I seem to be a bit more interested in just killing them than drawing a bunch of cards and switching life totals. Right, so there's a Pinnacle Emissary on the top of their deck there. What about Cecil Death Shadow Tension? I mean, yeah, you can play those 2 cards in the same deck. So do we assume our opponent has another Rebuke? I think that they probably do. I'm going to play this Clarion Conqueror anyways, because if my opponent is able to crack these baubles, if they're able to crack these baubles and set up for a big Pinnacle Emissary, it's really scary. And they also might just be trying to crack the baubles for Emissary anyways, and they indeed might not have the Rebuke, which just seems to be the case. So can't always play scared. Mr. Negative is a better Trexa. You know, Mr. Negative is such a strange, odd, weird, unique effect. It's going to be incredibly polarizing. I always think it's very interesting when a card like this exists, and without ever playing with it, people have very strong opinions like this. I'm not condemning this or anything, but I just think it's interesting that it's even possible to feel like you can understand the card, because I don't feel like I can understand it, and I probably play more Modern than anybody here. But the Mr. Negative effect seems to me to be very unpredictable and high variance. Okay, so they have a Galvanic Blast, 2 more cards in their hand, none of them known. Could maybe have hasted the FOMO. I think I want to try to save it for Winota, though. Yeah, I guess, yeah, no pun intended when I said Mr. Negative is polarizing. You know, one thing too about Mr. Negative is that when you cheat something big into play in Modern, it usually doesn't matter exactly what it is. You know, like Atraxa versus Gristlebrand versus Archon of Cruelty. These are the usual suspects. They all have their pros and cons. But the rub is, if you get to cheat a big thing into play, it's probably going to win you the game, and it doesn't matter a ton the differences, right? And so when you have an effect like Mr. Negative, where the highs are going to be really high, like sometimes you're going to gain a ton of life and draw a ton of cards, or is it gain a ton of life or draw a ton of cards? I think it is. The highs are going to be very high, but the lows are going to be very low. The lows are going to be very low, and it's tough to have low lows on an effect like this. I like the idea of Mr. Negative with Wall of Blood. Yeah, Wall of Blood is just such an embarrassing card to register, you know. Fleam, unfortunately, seems to not be making the PowerPoint. And draw 2. Even though we're flooding, we have 4 Spyro, 4 Looting, 3 more FOMO, 3 Wrath of Skies, 2 more Clarion Conquerors, 4 Winotas to draw into. We also can hardcast Angrath Marauders just with the amount of lands we have. And untap it with FOMO, which could be fun. Yeah, just Wall of Blood is a tough card to register, and like I know that it's the best effect for life paying because I've been digging. Although maybe like Necro's better now, or there's also that 2 mana instant that you can pay life and dig. But as far as creatures, it's the best life pair. This your Parasite pays life in increments of 2. Yeah, I guess Parasite's a lot better. I've been down the Wall of Blood rabbit hole, but I don't know why Parasite's not one I remembered. Okay, a lot of good top decks. FOMO is on our list here. I do really want to save this Lightning Bolt for the Pinnacle Emissary that's in Warp. My opponent has a Metallic Rebuke in their hand. At this point, we can be pretty confident in that. Okay, I will pay. So let's discard the Marsh Flats. This Lightning Bolt is worth 7 damage. Usually the going rate for a Lightning Bolt is actually only 3. But if I just bolt them, it's worth 7 damage. So it's going to be 8 plus 3. 8 plus 3 is 11. Put them down to 5. I think let's go ahead and go for it. All right, so they have Pinnacle Emissary, 2 other cards. Could we think they have another Rebuke if they're just gonna like throw one away like that? I don't know if that's a reasonable conclusion to come to. Lands make sense, at least one land. There's a Polluted Delta. Now I'm not sure how much more damage we're gonna be able to get in if they go like Emissary, play an artifact, trigger Cori-Steel Cutter. Let me know if you would have saved the bolt for the Emissary or cast it to get Delirium in and an extra 4 damage. Because they could be at 9 right now. No, they'd be at 12 right now, and we have a bolt in our hand. We still have Phlages. We have more bolts. We have Winotas. This is an interesting tank. They have Kappa Cannoneer plus Rebuke as their last 2 cards. That could be like an interesting thing to think about. Okay, they just equip the Steel Cutter to a Pinnacle Emissary. And they pass. So their hand does seem to be bad. Maybe, okay, they don't even have Rebuke up anymore. Now we can't haste this FOMO, but we can cast it. I am out of Surveil lands. Okay, so if I attack with both of these, they block 1, then they presumably take 2, and then... So I effectively have the option to trade both FOMOs for the Pinnacle Emissary. I think with me being a Winota deck, and also I can just hard cast Angrath's Marauders because I'm so flooded. I think both of those things are gonna make me say no to that trade offer. Yeah, only 22 lands in this deck. That being said, my opponent's also having a bad draw and they concede, so I just always love to be able to pull one of these kind of games off. I guess I don't have that many Marauders in the deck though. Only had 2. We trimmed 1. Yeah, also putting them at 2. All right, good luck on your Root Canal, Mac. All right, go to game 3. We did draw a Clarion Conqueror. Do you not bring in Bauble against Affinity? I do want to play sometimes. I'm worried about over sideboarding, right? Where this isn't like a normal like Boros mid-range aggro deck where you have to like maintain your synergies. I already boarded in 6 cards. Boarding in 8 is pretty tough. Vexing Bauble is a lot worse on the draw. It seems also to be worse against their build, that they're not playing Ornithopter Midnight. It seems they're playing Tamiyo Imri instead. But you could play Vexing Bauble. It's maybe you could play Vexing Bauble over the Mishra's Baubles. Again, a lot worse on the draw. Yeah, I don't usually mind like the Mishra's Bauble, Vexing Bauble, miss synergy so much. Yeah, I'll keep double bolt Clarion Conqueror. Being able to kill Tamiyo Imri matters a lot, and despite them having a good amount of answers for the Conqueror, they're Galvanic Discharge and Flame deck. Still a solid card against them, and they're on a mulligan also, so love keeping 1-for-1s into sideboard card. Spiral of Canal. No turn 1 creature, which is not exactly what we wanted to see. They might have a Imri still. They might be saving for a bigger Pinnacle Emissary. A lot of things could be happening. The tank makes me think Pinnacle Emissary. They've got a Soul Guide Lantern, a Delta, and the Passing of the Turn. No. Then a Mishra's Bauble. Then a Passing of the Turn. So weird. I guess these affinity mulligans can be weird sometimes. Let's keep that one. So we can rule out them having Pinnacle Emissary. One thing that might be happening is that they had both Metallic Rebuke and Imri, and they're wanting to play Imri with the Rebuke up. This thought is solidified a little bit more because they decided to fetch and surveil instead of cracking their Bauble first. They do keep a card on top. Second Bolt maybe will be coming in clutch. There's a Tamiyo. A Tamiyo and a tank. I'm going to bolt the Tamiyo. I was really hoping that they would Metallic Rebuke this, and then these would be tapped so they couldn't get value out of them, and then I would just be able to untap and Wrath X=1. Instead, I think we are going to offer up the Clarion Conqueror to the altar of Metallic Rebuke. They only have 2 cards in their hand, and if that's one of them, I think that that's going to be okay. Let's go ahead and crack our Bauble first, because we've got the Conqueror. And I guess I'm going to look at their top. There's looking at the top of my library could be kind of interesting. Like if there's something I want to loot away, maybe I would just flashback looting this turn. Yeah, I'm just not gonna put that much stock on like making sure this sticks and gets through. Like they could just sack and draw 2 instead of rebuking. If they rebuke, I think I'm happy with that change. We know their top card's just a land, so it's less likely their last card is a payoff. And they also have Galvanic Blast and Flame of Anor, so they have plenty of ways to answer the Conqueror. They don't crack their Bauble, even though I'm putting a Conqueror into play. You could chop this up to affinity players never cracking Bauble, but I think it's a bit more likely that they have Galvanic Blast in their hand and they're trying to keep this for Metalcraft. So if we have that assumption, we can try to try to Wrath Disguise them off of Metalcraft. They play a Thoughtcast, then they play a Mox Opal, then they play a Delta. So if they have the Galvanic Blast, they will cast it right now. Okay, so we were right and couldn't do anything with the information, I think. Okay, now with this looting top deck, I think I'm just interested in like next turn casting the looting and then escaping Phlage before they have the window to sack the lantern. Did I miss a button on my shirt? Oh, I did. Me and a friend is interested in starting playing Magic IRL. What would be the best way to start for 2 people who have never played before? So I would recommend picking up some intro decks and watching some YouTube videos on how to play. The thing about Magic is it's so big and open. There's like infinite possibilities with it and like millions of different ways to play. So there's really no right or wrong way to get into it. Most people learn from a friend who already knows how to play. But if that's not something in your repertoire, I guess there's online friends like me. Okay. So it does seem like they've got Rebuke. So what I like about keeping the Steel Cutter here is that I get to go cast Steel Cutter and like flashback looting and don't really care if it gets rebuked, and I get good value off the looting now that the lantern has been cracked. Yeah, there's a tutorial on Arena too that's a little bit more interactive. Right, looting flashback. They sell intro decks. If they don't sell them anymore, you could at least probably find some older ones online. It's a very weird game we're playing right now. Spider-Man has welcome decks you're supposed to give away at LGS. That's cool. Yeah, I think Wizards has always done a good job of having these like new player products available. All right, so they have 4 cards in their hand. One of them is almost definitely Metallic Rebuke. Maybe they have Flame instead, and they're thinking about like killing the Steel Cutter versus drawing cards. It's been a very weird game. They take the damage, and then they do nothing after some thought. So probably another Galvanic Blast. Maybe they have Flame, and they're thinking that the only way they can get out of this is if they draw a Wizard. Excelgus with the 5 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you. It seems like they did have the Flame. They did not draw the Wizard. They drew the Bauble. We are plus 10 minutes on the clock. Sorry for the slow pace of play, of course. There's nothing we can do about it. Those got 2 cards in their hand. At least we're going to probably win this one and be 2-0 here. If I draw a land, we can go like Wrath of Skies to bait the Rebuke out of their hand. I think I'm interested in Wrath of Skysing anyways. This way, like, Kappa Cannoneer just isn't a live top deck, and to me that seems like kind of the biggest problemo here. Guess we should attack first. We can dig for a Winota. We have 2 elemental tokens in play that trigger the Winota when we attack. Now holding up Rebuke is going to be a lot trickier for them. We could maybe bait the Rebuke on the Phlage if we feel like that's what they're holding up. Their hand is Kappa, Rebuke, and Dead card. Maybe. Whip Flare, okay. Then they play the Opal so they could Rebuke. Alright, let's just get a Rebuke out of their hand. Not going to use the Arena since it just seems so likely. They have it. Rid of a Conqueror, and then 2 of the 3 bolts. We can keep Delirium for future Fomo. Okay, 2 cards in their hand. They might have another Whip Flare. Seems like they have something at least a little proactive. No way, dude. No way I just drew this. I have 1 mounted in my deck. Oh my gosh, we got so bailed out. Remember, if our game was on 4 color, top deck exactly Bowmasters to beat me. Yeah, I mean, I honestly just should have got it mounted way earlier than this. So Imri is definitely good for them here. I think if I looting into Steel Cutter, I might hold the Bauble. They're drawing a Mox Opal. Okay, obviously that's a really nice pickup. Can't give it haste while the Harbinger is in play. How many bolts do I have left? No bolts left. But I do have Phlages left that can kill the Harbinger. They target Soul Guide Lantern. Exile the Phlage. 2 cards in their hand. They get in for 2. I'll cast, draw 2 more. And they pass. Seems like they've got the all access token. A lot of times you can tell when they have all alt arts. All right, so we get our opponent down to 6, presumably. We still have all of our Winota hits in the deck, and we get potentially 2 triggers if we can attack with the Fomo, although they might sack the Lantern to stop me from being able to attack with the Fomo. When they cast another artifact this turn from the yard with Imri, that does turn on their red mana from Mox Opal. So if they're sitting on a Galvanic Blast or a Flame of Venor, that's some big problems. My opponent is also down to 5 minutes on the clock. It seems like it's probably not going to come down to that. Might come down to that if they continue at this pace of play. They sacked the Lantern to draw a card. That's a great sign because we were really scared of them just playing a card from the yard, having red mana from the Opal, and like Flame of Venoring my Winota. This is game 3. What's your largest time diff I've won with? I think 18 minutes. So not too far away from that. Alright, the XL is Spyro. I have used 6 minutes to my opponent's 21. They draw another card. Listen, I'll take a win. A long win over a slow loss or a fast loss. Play a Tamiyo. 4 minutes on the clock. Big draw step for us. Go to combat. They did not end up exiling my graveyard. Let's see what we hit off the Winota. We hit another Winota, which I think we might as well put into play. Gives indestructible. Kind of minor. This is also technically a lethal attack, but they have the Tamiyo to put on the FOMO. Does Moto have a limit to AFKing so they can't rage quit and waste someone's time? I think it's like 8 minutes. And the reason why the AFK time is so long is that Magic Online used to just crash constantly and you'd have to reset. Like restart Magic. Sometimes your computer, like way back in the day, I would have to restart my computer to get it functional again. But it hasn't been like this for a really long time. I'm like a pretty big proponent of like thinking that it would be better if we switch the inactivity timer to like 5 minutes. Okay, we do brick. They do have to chump block. We had 3 hits and we had 12 looks and 28 cards, so bricking is unlucky. We do get to cast a Steel Cutter as my opponent goes down to 3 minutes on the clock. Yeah, and challenges it's 15 minutes. I just do think it's time. Like the client is just functional enough that I think you could lower the time. Maybe my attitude is a little out of date too, or out of touch, because I know some people's computers struggle more than mine. But I also like I don't know if that I ever run into players who are just regularly inactive for 5 minutes. Like it's a pretty rare thing for that to happen. Casting equipping cutter pre-combat seems pretty good before attacks. Well, how do you do that with a single red mana? I'm on board, but it seems we're missing the red mana. You have good internet? I definitely still crash. Well, so it's like, how long does it take you to get back into a game after you crash? Like, I just don't know how often it's like the full 8 minutes. It just seems really rare. Okay, we win! 1 hour into the stream, we are 2-0. Is this modern legal? Let me keep this on the draw here. Alright, so 8 mana. Elder Human Noble could Winota into it. Demons have Menace, Lifelink Haste. At the beginning of combat your turn, exile 1 creature card in graveyard. If it exiled a card this way, create a token copy except 5/5. Isn't this card worse than Sinspara? Seems like a worse version of Sinspara to me. I think I'm going to say no to the arena. It's kind of close, though. Okay, good feedback, middle. It keeps the card on top. You can Shifting Woodland Arden on turn 3. Yeah, but my thought is that this my stutter's so bad today. My thought is this effect seems to be worse than I'm gonna play the Steel Cutter this turn. It seems to be worse than Sinspara, right? Where you get an attack trigger and an ETB trigger sometimes, and you get extra lands. I guess you get to choose the thing, which is an advantage. Have I done any more work on the VV Cauldron deck? Not really. I've sat down to like maybe make some changes and like try to add Gristlebrand to the deck, but none of the changes I've tried to make seem to like be actually better than what I have, if that makes sense. Do you think we're getting Galvanic Discharged? Sinspara doesn't let you pick and already gives haste. Well, you almost always get something great off Sinspara, for whatever that's worth. And if you Goryo's it, you get double the trigger. Yeah, maybe this card is better. I just haven't seen anybody play it. Okay, happy with this block, because this means they're going to less likely have energy for the Galvanic Discharge, although here's the energy. So, seems like we're wanting to bolt the Guide of Souls. We'll need to do that right now. Yeah, maybe Ardent is better. Yeah, no ETB is really tough, though. Oh my gosh, sorry. Busy thinking about Ardent. Okay, one more energy, one more life than we needed to give them. They do discard a Phlage. They also discard another Ajani. They play a Marsh Flats, so they can escape the Phlage next turn. We get hit for 3 down to 12. They have a card in their hand, and they're thinking. So this is a lot of Goryo's targets. It's cool that you could woodland it. Okay, I think we were supposed to go Spyro, discard Phlage, Winota. Sorry, Phlage, Flooded Strand. No, it's got to be Phlage, Winota, because we're not gonna have the second elemental token to really have a good chance of killing with Winota next turn. So we just need the mana and maybe the blocker. Okay, it's cool that if you FOMO this, you get the extra trigger too. Not a very. I would think that Gristlebrand is almost definitely better than Atraxa in this build. Like, I don't really understand why people put Atraxa in non-ephemerate builds. Like Gristlebrand is just almost always like clearly better in my experience. I will say I don't like how this deck has really no plan Bs to graveyard hate. It's okay that you have a bunch of answers to them. What's nice about like Esper Gorios and Grixis is that you're just a Psychic Frog, Emperor of Bones. Like you do have Emperor of Bones, I guess, but like Frog just gives you so much equity against we're looking for an Arena of Glory, I guess. Frog gives you so much equity against Graveyard Hate, but it's not just a mistake to build the deck this way. If I see Winota on top, we might do no blocks. Okay, so this is 4, 5, 6 damage. If I go Winota into Angrath's Marauders, it doesn't seem like that's going to be a win for me anyway. So I think we're mostly just trying to bank on finding the arena. If we find the arena, we're in solid shape. If we don't, we are probably going to lose. Top deck a FOMO. So I escape the Phlage, I kill a Johnny. They Phlage me back down to 7. I block here. I guess we're not in the worst shape with that outcome. I have seen the Demonic Bargain Cosmogoyf deck. I do feel like Demonic Bargain is a little bit underexplored by me. I think because we're just going to go land. It's hard to get value out of both Phobos. Is the discard. Maybe we should have kept this earlier arena. I'm not sure. We have 10 cards in the graveyard. I want to keep Delirium and both Spyros in the yard, but it seems like we're not going to quite be able to do that. Takes out all the lands because we're going to get another land in the yard. We need to keep the Bolt in. It would be nice if this interface made any sense. Okay. Okay, opponent's going down to 2 energy. They got 3 cards in the hand. They give me back the Steel Cutter, which means they have Galvanic Discharge for lethal, and we go to game 2. So we bring in my Wraths. I think it's N3 Wrath minus 3 Ragavan. And then I want at least the first Ghost Vacuum. Probably more than that, actually. Is this a worse Godfarrow's Gift? Well, you can Goryo's the Arden, which makes it meaningfully more relevant than Godfarrow's Gift. What's nice about Godfarrow's Gift is that you can imprint it to Ugin's Labyrinth, and it's a bit easier to cast. But this might be better. This is a cool find. I will try replacing all the Atraxas with Griselbrand. In my experience, the life swing Atraxa provides is really important to getting another turn. Yeah, Griselbrand also has lifelink. You know, it's fine, I think. I feel very confident that Griselbrand is just it's also like actually castable in this deck in the late game, which is not the most important, but a little bit relevant. I guess you do have enough this Exiles, right? Okay, I guess that's enough for the Ulamogs. But I just feel very confident that if you do not have Ephemerate or at least Consign in your deck, Atraxa is worse than Griselbrand. Super with the 20 months, welcome back. It gets double lifelink with Arden. Thoughts on Goryo's position in the meta? It's my favorite deck. I'm seeing a lot of people call it a worse Esper Blink. So I've been playing like Esper Blink, like splashing Goryos, and what I found to be pretty interesting was I felt that build was really good against Esper Blink, but weirdly the main reason was because you just hardcast Atraxa, and like the game just gets so late that you just start hardcasting Atraxas and they can't win. That was my experience. So I think that Esper Goryos is good. The thing about any of these Reanimator builds, Grixis, Esper, this other like Woodlands Brew we're looking at, is you are going to win no matter what your build looks like. If you do the Goryos thing, if your deck draws well and your opponents don't have the effective hate to stop you, this is always going to be the case. Your deck is going to dominate. So these builds become very difficult to play test and evaluate. These decks become very difficult to play test and evaluate because all of your wins, or like a huge chunk of your wins, are just I had it and my opponent didn't. And but this is something that we've kind of seen time and time again over the course of like MH2 onward, is that I can't tell you how exactly good these Reanimator builds are because you need so many reps to really come to an understanding, if that makes sense. It takes so many reps to understand how good your Reanimator build is that it's just tough. Like we won a modern challenge with what is the 4-mana the 4-mana with Aether Mage's Touch, it's like it's just like impossible to know. Thankfully our token is still valuable because of the Winota. If it helps someone, a shit ton of games, three pieces of an extra. Yeah, that does help. But I'm just saying that this is the kind of things you need to be thinking about. I get to draw an extra card here. Let's see what we surveil into. Land for Winota. I think I'm pretty interested in keeping backup Winota. I don't know how valuable the Spyro is going to be. Probably better than the Vacuum. Tear the Fomo. Delirium online. Possible we want to Spyro? Instead of for a bigger Winota. Okay, let's cast. Well, you know what? I do think it's close, but I also don't love how it just like exactly telegraphs what my hand is, so that's a bit of an issue. Now things get a little bit weirder too, where I'm pretty incentivized to just Wrath the Skies next turn. I'm pretty incentivized to just Wrath the Skies next turn, which stops me from setting up for this Winota like I have. Really interested in them me not flipping the Ajani. Stash with the 37 months. Hope you're doing well. I'm down to 10. There's a Voice of Victory, an Arid Mesa, and a Passing of the Turn. A Bauble would be a fun draw, so I could make a Steel Cutter token this turn. Although I don't know that I can say no to Arena of Glory. Let's not. One fun thing about making it obvious I have Winota is that playing around Wrath Disguise becomes very tough for them. Welcome back, Cori-Steel Cutter. They put a discharge into their graveyard there. They got no energy in the pool. There's the Marsh Flats. So they have the third Surveil land to dig for the Phlage. Oh, no. Played the third Surveil land, I think, is... I've been very pro third Surveil land for a long time. Have you ever tried any Greasefang deck in Modern, or is the power level of the card not high enough? Yes and yes. I have tried it, and I don't think the power level's high enough. It's very bad against Karn. It's very bad against Graveyard Hate. It's very bad against creature removal. It does not in the game also, so it's like a turn 3 combo that deals your opponent like 14, right? And then you just get untap and killed. So it is a card we've tried, and it's a card I think is not very good. We've had some like cool shells with it. It's been a long time since I've played a Greasefang in Modern. Like, it's really fun to, like, Aether Violin, Goblin Engineer on turn 3, then cast a Greasefang and just do the thing all at once. Really good Unearth Shell. This build was very fun, but just, like, got too many structural problems, I think. Yeah, looting's been unbanned, Mox Opal's been unbanned, so you could go in those directions, but, you know, there's more powerful things you could do with looting, you know. I think that Greasefang is something that I'm mostly interested in looking back at if they ever print a better better vehicle. Like Parhelion is just, I just don't think it cuts it. I like just like Galvanic Discharge and Fatal Push and Solitude and Card the Great Creator. It's like they're and Graveyard Hate. Like it just is one of these strategies that's weak to everything and doesn't finish your opponent off. And this is not a combination that typically you can find success with. I know it's a little weird to run out the Vacuum when I've got the Wrath, but I think I need to make it look less like I've got the Wrath, if that makes sense. I think we'll keep the FOMO. Do I like the design of Voice of Victory? Sure. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. We're alive. But just barely. Maybe I should kill the Voice. No, I don't like being dead to Galvanic Discharge. Seems like a card they could have really likely. That or another Ajani. Do you think they're gonna make any changes to Modern November 14th? I don't like to think what they're gonna do, because you know, Wizards very rarely are like my predictions of what I think is gonna happen accurate. They're very hard to predict. It's literally just gonna be at the whims of whatever happens on their like meeting about it. I know what I think. I think that they should make some changes to Modern. But there's just a big difference between what I think they're going to do and what I think they should do. So I think it's pretty likely they have a Phlage in their hand. And they don't have the third land, and so... Oh, I was going to search for that. Problem? I don't think that's a problem. So I think this game is going to come down to, does my opponent top deck a land this turn? Because I can escape my Phlage next turn. I guess I should have ghost vacuumed the Strand there. But I can escape the Phlage and get out of their Phlage range, which will likely put me in good shape. Maybe they have Thraben Charm for my Phlage. That would be a problem. Okay, problem. There's a Guide to Souls. And nothing else. They have no energy in the pool at the moment. Winota does have lifelink. Drawing an Arena of Glory could be kind of nice. I think I'm going to discard the Arid Mesa here. Oh my gosh. Cool. They could have the Galvanic Discharge, but I think, our chance to gain the 3 life is too valuable here. They do have the Discharge, which also gives them an extra energy for the Guide of Souls. So that's 2 energy in the pool. Dead to any creature. I guess I should have played the Sacred Foundry because of Seasoned Pyromancer. Not going to be the biggest deal. So dead to any creature, which is very tough to avoid. Also dead to Discharge. There's a Sacred Foundry. We're dead. Tough game. Yeah, game 3. 2-1. Don't think we could have mulliganed. Alright, Wooded Foothills, Mishra's Bauble, pass. Could be a turn 3 win, although not too likely to have no interaction. We needed Mr. Negative there, huh? Alright, keeps the card on top. And passes. Their own Steel Cutter. Very weird that they played a Bauble. If they had a Steel Cutter, maybe they just drew it. I miss ramping with Wildfires. Are you saying that because that's the backup deck? Because that is the backup deck. Yeah, we don't want to attack with the Ragavan because we want it to trigger our Winota. Yeah, that is the backup deck. We've got Jeskai Wizards with Cleansing Wildfire in the main, and you get to pick up your Wildfires with Tamio and flash it back with Snapcaster. There's been a lot of Tron in the metagame. And I also think Counterspell is just not very good, so we're like Jeskai Control, moving away from Counterspell. So we see a preordain on top. I got the All Access Pass. I'm scared to spend play points in a league with the Brew. Can you give me some words of encouragement? I mean, you gotta live your life, you know. You got, are you confident in your Brew? Do you think it's cool? Like, how badly do you want to play it? It just all comes down to that. You don't need me to give you words of encouragement. You got to give words of encouragement to yourself. Yeah, of course there's no gifts that give it in the back of deck. Yeah, there's also friendly leagues, there's free to play leagues, so you don't have to spend money either. Yeah, one on top, one on bottom. Why has prowess been on decline? I think it's been back on the incline a little bit, but I think it mostly was pretty bad against is pretty bad against the blink decks that popped up. I got confused by mono green coffers. Deck looks awesome. We did play it yesterday. Yeah, we 4-1-3-2 O2'd. Okay, I'm gonna let them surveil before I bolt the channeler again. Yeah, but Prowess is kind of back a little bit. Now that Blink is dipping down a little bit more, and I think Prowess gamers, it seems to some extent they understand the matchup a bit better. Hard to say exactly how much it's back or like if it really is back, but it feels kind of back to me. So I'm a little bit worried about attacking with this Ragavan or attacking at all, and then they like bolt. I guess if they're gonna bolt one of my creatures or I got shot one of my lava dart one of my creatures, they're gonna be able to do that anyways. I might leave this back. Maybe we could leave both back. But weird. Let's see if the equipped token back for the blocks. Okay, they do have lava dart. And then this token they can trade tokens, but this comes at the cost of sacking a land here, which they probably won't want to do. Yeah, they don't. So I'm at 13 life points. It would be really nice if I could keep both of my tokens in play for the Winota next turn. With Tron popular, any plans to revisit the Restore Balance deck? I do really like that deck. I don't think it's particularly good against the Tron builds though, because of how fast they can play Karn. But I do have a soft spot for that build. They hit a Bauble, trigger the Steel Cutter, untap Steam Vents, plus the Dart in the yard. So this is 9, 10, 11, plus another 4, plus another 1. I think we're dead. Just, yep. So block here, 5, 5. Yeah, we're dead. Even with the block. Tough. I do think we're going to bring in the Wraths and cut the Ragavans. Maybe play one Ragavan. Vexing Bauble stopping Lava Dart, Flashback, Mutagenic Growth, and Mishra's Bauble. All seems okay. Also a plotted Slick Shot show off. I'm interested. I haven't really tried it against Prowess, so seems like a good time as any to try it out. Yeah, I like the mono green coffers deck. I feel like it's like uniquely kind of well positioned, where there's like a lot of like White Orchid Phantom and Field of Ruin stuff popping up, and so having a lot of your basics you up helps you there a lot too, and you're pretty fast and you can got some big stuff really quick. Ghost Vacuum for the Delirium stuff. It's not very good at stopping Delirium. Ghost Vacuum. A little bit too slow. Not too good at getting rid of darts because they just flash it back and respawn sometimes. Definitely okay. Alright, let's keep this. Let's cast the Looting on turn 1. Wrath seem to have a lot of tension in this deck with wiping the tokens and Cutter. Yeah, I think it's okay. I mean, this has kind of been a dynamic in Magic forever, right? Where you just... You have Wraths in your creature decks, and you're trying to set up to get more of their creatures than you get yours. I think it's just like Wrath Disguise is so good and so efficient, even in a deck without energy generation, that it's just almost a mandatory play in white decks, which is something I do not like about the format. What happened to the Woodlands Omniscience combo deck? You know, I've been thinking about that one a little bit lately. It does seem a little bit slow at the moment. Graveyard Hate is on the rise. There's also like something to be said. I feel like those builds are relatively solved. It doesn't exactly feel like when I've come back to work on them, I have a lot of like thoughts and ways to innovate on it. Is there a top tier VV deck in Modern currently? No. I've been playing VV Cauldron to pretty good success recently. As far as I haven't seen anybody else pick it up. We've had some like solid results with it, nothing too groundbreaking. The deck is like fun and refreshing and like interesting, but it's not broken, nor top tier. Would the Mox level decks be too busted if Wrath of Skies was gone? I feel like the answer is like clearly no. Clearly no. But I think that like the Mox level decks are like, not only are they really weak to stuff like Meltdown and Force of Vigor and like the Culling Ritual, that there's the Fade into History, Stony Silence, Clarion Conqueror. They're really weak to this long laundry list of cards, right? But they're also like kind of structurally have bad matchups against like Goryo's, and structurally have bad matchups against Storm and Titan. It's like and I don't think they're good against Tron either. Like I think that the affinity decks are kind of good against the other fair decks game one, and then they are pretty soft to them in sideboard games. And I think that Wrath the Skies might change these dynamics against the fair decks a little bit more, but you still have the problem with affinity that you're just kind of weak to the linear decks because you're just slower than them. Well, we have lethal next turn. You think VV Cauldron is just going to break Pioneer when we have to care about it again? I think there's a pretty good chance that happens, yeah. Hard to care about Pioneer, though. Hard to care. I've been trying to workshop Ice Till plus Woodlands combo. There's something there, but the problem is there aren't many slots left in the deck. I guess could you elaborate on Ice Till plus Woodlands? Because I'm not really seeing the overlapping synergy. Like, it seems like Ice Till seems like really high on the mana curve, and like I guess you get to like fill stuff in the graveyard, so that's kind of nice. But I don't feel like you have room for like 4-drops that aren't Karn. Are we dead? Wow, we're dead. Let's play the backup deck. Yeah, I'm ready to play some Jeskai. That was nuts. Bretch is becoming a mod. Let's fucking go. Congrats and welcome.